May 1945, Wieden, Bavaria. The guns had fallen silent across Europe, but for the people of this small Bavarian village, the real battle had only just begun. Hunger ruled everything now. Supply lines had collapsed, retreating German soldiers had taken what little food remained, and the civilians left behind were slowly starving. At a lonely American checkpoint on the muddy road leading out of Wieden stood 23-year-old Corporal Elias Kane from Ohio. He was tall and thin, with short dark hair, an honest face marked by freckles, and eyes that had seen too much in the last months of fighting. His uniform was dirty, his helmet scratched. He had lost his best friend only 3 weeks earlier. Kane was tired, but he had not yet become hard. On this quiet May morning, a small group of German children emerged from the ruins. There were 15 of them at first. They moved slowly, as if every step cost them strength they no longer had. Among them walked 7-year-old Hannah. She had thin blonde braids, torn shoes that barely stayed on her feet, and a dress that once belonged to an older sister who was no longer alive. Hannah did not speak. She simply stopped a few feet in front of Corporal Kane and held out both small, dirty hands. Kane felt the last Hershey bar in his pocket. It was the only sweet thing he had left. He had been saving it for a quiet moment when the war felt truly over. Now it felt heavy. He looked at Hannah's tired eyes, then at the other children standing behind her. Their faces were hollow, their clothes hung from bones. He knew the standing order: do not feed German civilians. Food was for American troops and official relief organizations only. Giving it away could be seen as aiding the enemy. But Kane could not look away. He reached into his pocket, took out the chocolate bar, and broke it into tiny pieces with shaking fingers. One by one, he placed the small fragments into the children's hands. Hannah took her piece carefully, as if it were made of glass. She put it in her mouth and closed her eyes for a long moment. That was when Sergeant Harlan Reeves, a hardened 35-year-old veteran with a permanent scowl and a voice like gravel, stormed over. "Kane, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Reeves grabbed Kane's wrist. "That is a direct order. No food for German civilians. You want a court-martial?" Kane did not pull away. "Sergeant, look at them. They're children. They're starving." Reeves's face did not soften. "Yesterday their fathers were shooting at us. Their mothers cheered when the bombs fell on London. This is not our problem." The argument grew loud. Other soldiers at the checkpoint gathered. Some agreed with Reeves. Others looked away, ashamed. Within minutes, more children appeared from the broken houses. The group grew to nearly 30. An older German boy who knew a few words of English stepped forward. "Please, sir." "The little ones have not eaten in days," Reeves answered coldly. "Go home. This is not our concern." Kane stood frozen between duty and conscience. Then he made his choice. He broke the last pieces and gave them out. The children who received chocolate immediately broke their tiny shares in half and gave them to the smallest ones. Hannah gave half of hers to a little boy who could barely stand. The moment lasted only minutes, but it was enough. The sergeant wrote the report before the sun went down. That same evening, the report reached General George S. Patton. The general was in his mobile headquarters 40 kilometers away. Patton, a stern-faced 60-year-old American general with a bald head, strong jawline, prominent chin, high forehead, and piercing, intense eyes, sat at a small wooden table. He wore his polished uniform with 4 stars on the helmet, rows of medals and ribbons, and his famous pearl-handled revolvers in their holsters. He read the report once. Then he read it again. He lit a cigar and stared at the map for a long time. Finally, he stood up. "Get my jeep ready. I'm going to Wieden myself. No action until I arrive." The next morning, Patton's jeep rolled into the checkpoint. The children were already there again. Word had spread quickly. There were more than 50 now. Patton stepped out. His presence was immediate and commanding. He looked at the children, then at Corporal Kane, who stood rigidly at attention. "You are the man who gave away army rations?" Kane swallowed. "Yes, sir." Patton's voice was sharp. "You disobeyed a direct order. Explain yourself." Kane answered honestly, "They were hungry, sir. They are only children." Patton repeated slowly, "Only children." He walked among the children, studying their faces. Then he knelt in front of little Hannah. Without a word, he took out his own chocolate bar and placed it gently in her hands. The girl stared at the general, then at the chocolate, then back at Patton. Patton stood up and turned to his officers. "Set up a proper food station here twice a day. These children will eat, not a feast, but enough to keep them alive. I am changing the order in this sector." The supply major protested quietly. "Sir, regulations say—" Patton cut him off. "I know what regulations say. In this sector I am the regulation. We did not win this war to let children starve under our watch." He turned back to Kane. "Your heart was in the right place, Corporal. But one chocolate bar saves no one for long. Compassion without structure is chaos. You are now responsible for this station. Make it work, every day. No excuses." Kane could only nod. "Yes, sir." For the next 3 weeks, Corporal Elias Kane ran the food station with military precision. Every morning at 6 and every evening at 6, the children lined up. They received thin soup, bread, and milk for the youngest. Hannah came every single day. Slowly her cheeks filled out. The hollow look in her eyes began to fade. One evening, she brought Kane a folded piece of paper. It was a child's pencil drawing, an American soldier with corporal stripes handing bread to children under a sun that looked like it was smiling. Kane kept that drawing in his pocket for the rest of the war and for the rest of his life. Patton visited the station once more before moving on. He watched Hannah smile for the first time. He said nothing, but the soldiers saw something soften in the general's hard face. He never spoke publicly about the incident. To him it was simply the right decision at the right time. Years later, when Corporal Kane, now an old man in Ohio, showed the drawing to his grandson, he said quietly, "That was the day we finally won the war. Not on the battlefield, but here."